All right, welcome to the good stuff, the big episode 33. We're joined by another guest, a very orange guest, basking in the glow of the fire there, if you're looking on YouTube. So, do you want to introduce yourself? Say hello.
Hello, my name is Jarrad Grigg. I am currently the Chief Product Officer at Adapter, mobile app specialist for 15 years. We make sort of enterprise mobile apps for the government, for national clients like Wilson Parking, and do a bit of work with Transperth, a bunch of customers like that. So, really excited to talk about AI and design and how we use it and what the future might hold, all that sort of stuff. It's a very interesting time to be alive.
Can I ask you the most important question just right up front? What do you think of your character spread?
I love it.
Do you? Yeah. He's a bit. It looks like he's been at the beach longer than me and Pete.
Well, I tan pretty easily.
We've been here
so
that's sort of a
pretty
year.
accurate.
Yeah.
In fact, you founded the site. That's how tanned you are in that character spread.
You put me in the sun for an afternoon, and I'll be dark the next day. Lucky.
Weirdly, my dad has the same thing, but he lives in England.
Yeah.
But he will come out from the UK winter in January, with a full tan.
Yeah.
He's like, how? How?
Just
blessed. Family's from Birmingham. What the fuck? What's going on here?
The model has figured that out.
I used to swear at the first minute. That's the YouTube god.
That's
the problem with that.
See you next week.
Yeah.
So that was the important question. But I mean, obviously, this is just an exploration into AI for the most part every week. And keen on your thoughts from what are you seeing in agency land and
to rub your ego. Andy reached out and he was like, I really like Jarrad's tweets. We should get him on.
I was banging this drum for weeks because I think maybe it was
and I would say no.
It's pushed into the void,
Just settle down, Andy. Eventually, don't rush these things. But I'd seen a couple of your tweets and I was like, Jarrad gets it. We should have a chat with Jarrad for sure.
Oh, thanks. I love it. This is one of those things that I just if you're interested, it doesn't matter what time of the day. I'm constantly learning about new tools and exploring new tools and finding new ways to do things. Because the first time I used it, you have that oh shit moment where you realise that sort of something's changed. It's kind of a different thing. And over the years, right, you have those moments. There's different tooling and different sort of approaches that come out, and it is sort of logical to assume that this is just another one of those. It's just another thing.
It's just another hype bubble.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely that. There's a lot of hype. Yeah. We can talk about that, but there's something there that is fundamentally changing the way we do things. So I've just been launching into it.
Because this has been a big thing for us. It's we really think that because I'm totally sold. On this being very impactful for different reasons to what a lot of people do, but when I look at it and I try and compare myself with just man on the street, I'm like, you just haven't had the same moment that I had where I was like, oh shit, this is big. So what was it for you? What gave you that?
When you first start prompting the tooling to get some sort of development output, and it's half decent, it's not great. When you first started, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty impressive. I wonder how you could use that. Multimodal stuff, when you feed it an image and say, I tested, I can't remember what GP version it was, but this is one of those really big moments I had where I took a photo of at the train station, the timetables, and I had my watch up in the shop, and I took the photo and just asked it, what train do I need to catch to get home or whatever. And it told me it 60 this time and whatever. So that was one of those moments we thought, okay, it's understanding the image, it's understanding the watch time. That was one of those crazy moments.
Yeah. You didn't have to program it. It just understood. I need to know what time it is. Let me just look at his watch. His watch show me the time, and I'll infer that, and then work out the bus route.
And it felt more than a predictor of the next word thing.
Yeah.
I've heard it said that in order to predict the next word, you sort of have to have a world model, right, and understand the world. And so that was that first time. Well, that's pretty impressive. There's a lot of tooling and stuff. I think it's probably worth sort of going through the history and the past of sort of design tooling.
Go for it.
So how how we used to design, how I used to design things, and sort of how this now impacts that, and that's my sort of oh shit moment. So I was kind of that Photoshop nerd years ago, you know, so in high school I would sort of get home from school every day and, you know, just spend like 2 a.m. just tinkering around in Photoshop and...
Maybe we should have got you to do your own sprite.
Yeah, that's right. Like learning like the Adobe Creative Suite, right? So my first version of Photoshop was version 6, which was before the CS suite. And I just used to love doing that, just spending hours and hours learning the tooling.
Back when it was easy to pirate.
Yeah.
Every kid had.
You didn't think about the cost. You know, I was a high school kid, right? So I got to use it. And I used to use it to create art and all sorts of stuff. And then when I sort of was in university, I met a guy. Well, actually, I knew him forever, Joel. And then one of his friends, Chris, and we started sort of tinkering around with doing design, right? So I studied design at university. I've got like a comms degree. I've always been really interested in graphic design, logos, that sort of stuff. So Joel and I teamed up and we started creating this kind of work for clients. And that's all manual, right? So you have to think about, you know, what is the customer thinking? You have to kind of evoke a sense of emotion with what you're displaying, right? Is it techie? Is it soft? And, you know, what kind of colors are you using to, you know, I don't know. So there's a lot of deep psychology in it to sort of evoke an emotion with sort of what you create. And you would do that manually, you know, use Illustrator and Photoshop and that sort of stuff. And then we started getting to, this was like really early days, so it was like 2008, I think. We were designing websites before responsive was a thing. You know, I think the first website I designed, I think the phone I had at the time was like a slide-up Nokia, right? Pre-iPhone 3GS. And, you know, you do everything in Photoshop. So you'd have this really complex, you know, 100+ layer of PSD file, and it was just a fixed resolution, and then you'd have to splice it out, and you'd use, you know, tools like Dreamweaver or whatever, or code it up by hand in Notepad. You know, those days we used to have we built it in like Notepad or a text editor, and then we just FTP it. There's no Git or anything, right? So that was how we used to do it, and then, you know, phones, we saw that wave, and responsiveness became a big thing, right? Media queries, the first time I used a media query, I was like, oh wow, okay, you can sort of scale things with percentages, and then that way you only really need one code base, because you used to have an M.dot domain or something for a specific mobile site.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, you also had WAP. .wap.
Yeah.
Back in the day, although that's a different thing these days.
Yeah.
No longer just means a shitty text-based website.
It's just a shitty song. Yeah, so that was fun, right? Like learning, okay, but you had two different code bases. You'd have to build a mobile and the desktop. You'd have to maintain them separately. And it's like this moment where it's like, oh great, we can do one code base, and it can scale. So that was really interesting. But then the tooling was very difficult, right? So you'd build these responsive layouts, but it was a fixed PSD file, and so you'd have to have multiple PSDs. You say, okay, well, and then I've got the mobile PSD, and then I'd have, I don't know, the resolution in between when iPad came out, right? So you got all these complex PSDs that you're trying to keep up to date, and you're managing and everything like that. And it was probably around, I don't know, 2013, I think. Figma came around, and that for me was like a tooling, oh god, moment. They've figured out the workflow that you need. And there's things before that, right? There's like Sketch. Sketch was platform specific, right? So you could only run it on Mac. At the time, our studio sort of ran on a bit of both, and I kind of like the idea of something that could run on anything, but that wasn't really the thing that really impressed me. It wasn't like the multiplayer editing or the fact that it could run in a browser. That was, you know, it was great, but didn't really care. It was more the workflow. They figured out the way that designers work. And it was just, you just create one thing, you can scale it, you've got this infinite canvas that was pretty performant. You know, it had components, so it was kind of worked the way web worked as well. So you build your components, you'd have your instances and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of fueled the last, 10 years of digital design. So that was awesome. Really liked learning that, really liked using it. And that's really how things have sort of been designed since. Right? There's no paradigm shift. You know, you kind of conceptualize the look and feel in a board, in a canvas, mood boards and stuff, and then you say, okay, you kind of coalesce it into some visual, you know, maybe some concepts, or you have like low fidelity wireframes for the flows. You know, you have your separate screens side by side, connect the flows, you create your prototype, and it's worked. But now, obviously, I think that's changing again. My sort of feeling at the moment is that there's a gold rush for the next design flow, right? The next thing that can own that space. And there's a lot of tooling, and they're all coming at it from different levels of the stack, right? So you have something like Figma, which is obviously a little bit late to the party, but they're probably the best place to do it. They're using Figma Make is their sort of vibe tool, which is I think it's React Native. It uses like motion.dev for all the animation, things like that. But it's
what does it do?
So it's basically a designer's cursor. So you can prompt it and it will create a built prototype. I'm reasonably sure it's React Native. Or React,
sorry. The layouts that you've already set up and all of that.
Well, you can do that too. So that's the powerful part, right? Like if you're... It's kind of interesting actually, like a little aside, but I had this thought that design systems are a complete waste of time. For most businesses, right? So most businesses don't need that level of detail, right? You don't need to spend thousands of hours in Figma creating every possible variant of a component, all your variables, and you don't necessarily need to do that. It's
you get it because the designer wants to do that. It feels like they feel complete.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get that, right? Like as a designer, I get
it's
it.
the end of the Vince McMahon meme.
Yes, but you got to maintain it,
yeah,
right? And it slows things down, and it only makes sense in a business that already needs to run slow.
Yeah.
So something that has like realestate.com.au is a good example. They get a really great system. We employ design system for a couple of our clients, and it's at that scale where sort of risk and compliance and the amount of revenue that goes through, you kind of have to move slowly anyway for good reason. And so it makes sense for those sorts of customers. But if you just, you want to bash out an app really quickly, you're better off just iterating as you go. But the interesting point there is with Figma Make, you can import a design library. So if you've got a design system and you publish it as a library, you can import it into Make, and it can start to iterate on features a lot quicker because it's got that data set. It can generate from that, right? So interestingly, the more that kind of mentality of designer of like, I have to have this design system. Actually, in this kind of world, I think it works better. And it's now with the way that that's going, I think it's probably worth more time designers applying the effort into design systems, because you can speed things up a lot more later if you've got that. But so make it's model independent, so you can shoot. They just launched Gemini 3 with it, and it's got some great results. So you can prompt I have this prompt that I use for testing all these tools. It's pretty sloppy, just to see sort of how it goes, and the results are pretty good. But the thing that it doesn't do, right, it's kind of a one-way street. So as a designer, you want to be able to get messy. You want to be able to experiment. And, you can have your design system, and you can bring that as a library, and then you generate an application with it, or a concept. You can copy the screens out back into a design board, but they're not in sync. So you just copy the file. Copy the design out of whatever it's generated, and you put that into a design file. And you can play around back there, but then you can't. It's not in sync with the actual product. So as a designer, you don't have that full life cycle. Right? So I have no doubt that they're working on that. Yeah. But it's kind of a barrier at the moment, and you're stuck with sort of that stack.
So how does that make it? Like, what's the thing it solves for you there? Is it that you can go from like a Figma design to like, instead of, because the moment you could take like a Figma design and turn it into a prototype, it's a bit of a wow moment for most people. Because it's the first time they can actually play with the app and get a feel for how it works.
Yeah.
Is that like the impact area, or is it somewhere different?
It's definitely in that. It's definitely in that concept, that proof of concepting phase.
Yeah.
Right. So the traditional way is you have a conversation, you glean some requirements from that. This is what we kind of need to do. This is the personas we want to target, and then you go away and again on that infinite canvas, you start playing around with ideas. You might come up with a couple of flows. You do it all manually, right? So now you can take that conversation, those requirements, and you can stick it straight into Make, and it can come up with something. Right? So you get a concept a lot faster, but from a designer's point of view, you don't really have control over the flow or the experience, and that's where there's a lot of limitations at the moment. So it'll just infer what it thinks is a great UX.
Yeah, okay.
And they're not there yet. and it's not just, with the rate of improvement, eventually it might be, but.
So can you iterate it on it easily, or is it almost like you've got to like go back to the stage before hitting the make button, and then tidy up the requirements a bit there, and then make again, and then make again? You can't just like iterate the make.
You can, you kind of stumble forward. If it's not quite right, you just keep tweaking it and prompting it. But I think the interface there it's an early beta. It doesn't feel magic. It feels like, as a designer, right, and all these tools are the same, so this is kind of moving on to the other tooling, is that they're all building the same product, and as a designer you're asked to start with an empty text box. Right? It's not how designers think, and it's not how I want to design things. It can help, but it's design is messy, and you want to explore visually, and you want to take that visual exploration and create sort of a visual identity from that. Or
I'm more of an empty whiteboard than an empty text box sort of guy.
Yeah, you want to just paste a whole bunch of things in and get a feeling for it, right? So it's a different approach, and I don't think any of these tools have sort of nailed that yet. We can kind of come back to that, but so Make is getting there, and I feel that Figma will improve on that a lot, and maybe they'll have that full life cycle sort of system. But what it does lack at the moment is, the beautiful thing about Figma is, if you use like auto layouts or you structure things, easily, it's really easy to just click on a component or, any element and modify it, right? The controls are really intuitive. It just makes sense the way it works, especially if you've got some sort of front end experience. Like if you know how CSS works and you've built things before, it's just easy, right? It wasn't a struggle to learn. But the fact you can just interact with it and edit it, you can fine tune that way. Make doesn't do that. You have to keep prompting it.
Yeah, okay.
Right? To the best of my knowledge. And so I was experimenting with a lot of other tools, and some of them are getting
so
there.
To a certain extent, you almost still want cursor then on your Make project to go in and go, like, I want to see the code, I want to go to this bit, I want to change just that.
Yeah, correct. But again, designers aren't developers. They're not going to... They're going to learn more. They have to learn more in this space, but they're not going to be the guys jumping into the code and changing the values of pixels of this, of amps that, or whatever, right? They just want to click a box and drag a slider, or have a graphical user interface.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and there's some tools that are making good headway in that. So one I was playing around with the other day is called DreamFlow. So I don't know if you guys know about Flutter. It's like a so there's a
cross-platform, Rust-based mobile app development.
Yep. So at Adapter we use it a lot.
Boom.
it's great. And Google back it, and they've invested a lot into the design system, material design, which is what powers Android. And there was this application called Flutterflow, which was more of a technical tool for building Flutter apps, and that team's now released something called DreamFlow. And that feels like that Figma moment where they're starting to get the direction of the way designers want to work. You'd still start with a text box, right? Yeah, which I just don't like. But the reason why it's great is, Flutter can run in the web, so you don't need any sort of desktop emulators as a designer. You can just run it in the browser. So if you want to make a mobile app, you can prompt this, get your requirements, and start prompting something loose. But then you have an inspect tool where you can actually select the element and you get these design controls.
Yeah.
So you can fine tune. So it's multiple ways to come at it, right? So it has a file tree, and you can an idea, and you can code and everything like that. But this idea of a designer being able to attack it from their workflow, so prompt to get something, I can then fine tune it, change the colors, the assets, and everything like that. I think is where it'll go. I think one of the things that it probably needs is that infinite canvas. You need a tool that has an infinite canvas for exploration, combined with some prompting, and then fine tuning when you build it out. And it feels like a gold rush for that at the moment. There's all these different tools popping up that, there's something that it's not out yet, but it's like pencil.dev. It's like a design layer for IDEs. It's a cursor. It's the same sort of thing. You have this canvas that you can attach to cursor, and you can generate screens and experiment with it. So I think we're getting there for that next wave, but we're not. It's just starting.
Where does the user come into this part of the design process? Like these kind of tools and the way they're their design sound that like they're very much built for design craft and designers craft, and like being able to allow that exploration to happen. Like where do you start? Where does the rubber hit the road with some of these tools where you can start to get a user playing around with what you're building and what you're constructing and whether or not it works for them? It's that user experience design piece.
It can happen a lot faster, but you have to set the context with the customer first, right? So I probably change that question a little bit, and thinking about AI, right? There's I think about it in 3 different ways in product, right? There's AI as a product or a service within an app. So it's your little star icon chatbot where you talk to it. It's a product within your app, right? Then there's using AI to improve the current process. Yep. So you've got your same software development life cycle. And I think a lot of teams are doing that. They're using Cursor and other tools to speed up what they currently do. I think the more interesting thing is experimenting with using the strengths of this tooling to completely change the way you build software, as you guys know. And I think that's a whole new approach where if we start experimenting with that, you have to bring the customer in early, and they have to know that they're seeing things early. So the typical way is, you get all your requirements and you want to create a concept, you spend some time actually really thinking through what are the key flows that we want to demonstrate, you create a prototype, right, graphically. And then you present that. So the standard approach is you get in a meeting with the client, you demo all the flows, you say, okay, we've talked about this user's need, this is the way that we're solving that problem with this flow, and you run them through that on a call or in person or whatever, or you give them the prototype in Figma. And then you let them give you feedback. So it can be a conversation with the client, or even better, which what I typically like to do is find some customers, show them that, and get the feedback from them direct. Because then you're sort of validating the idea, right? The client has an idea of what they think is going to work well. You do from your own experience, but over the years I've learned that your experience means nothing. Customers always come up with different ways of, I thought it would work like that, right? So you've got to challenge your assumptions. So you get feedback from customers, then you just go through this iterative cycle of a particular feature or flow graphically, and then when you've got something that you think is in a great position to turn into something, then you can start scoping out, okay, well, how are we going to build that feature? What's the functional requirements for that? Agree to that, and then start building a prototype. And at that point, you're doing build demos with the customer. So at the end of every sprint, you have some sort of build to demonstrate, and you run through the progress on the features. That's kind of the typical way. My experience we've done it, but
from my experience, it was quite formative for me. I went over to Sovereign Engineering earlier in the year, which was like a boot camp for building freedom tech tools on Nostr and Bitcoin, and all these open platforms where you can just do whatever you want without asking permission. And the way it was set up was like, okay, we've got AI tools now. So instead of having you work on a project over 6 to 8 weeks, what we're going to do instead is you have to have a brand new project every week that you present to the team, and you have to have shipped it, and it has to be live by the end of the week. And you're like, ooh, that's a busy week. But then you realise that you've basically got Monday, we're setting up the week, and then Tuesday we've got talks, and Wednesday we've got workshops, and often you might be contributing to those. And so really you've got Thursday. Is when you develop your app for Friday. You've got Thursday and Friday morning. And then you realise that you probably want to go for a swim, and you're going to go out for dinner on Thursday night. And, I was recording my podcast on Thursday morning, so most Thursday morning would go. And then I was like, okay, so really you had 5 hours a week, basically, to come up. You come up with an idea on Monday, Tuesday, and then in about 5 hours you sit down and you go from, right, let's make an app, and then you get it all ready. So you get enough time to just work out the kinks on Friday morning, and then demonstrate it on Friday night, and then you just put your computer away for 2 days because you're like, I don't want to see this again for a while.
Rush.
But it was absolutely amazing to and the only reason they could do this was because of all the AI tooling that came out. It was this is kind of amazing that you can sit down and go from all right, this is an idea that I don't know if it's any good, to I can put it in the hands of 21 people and we can get instant feedback on what works and what doesn't work. And then I can move forward with that. And that speed was just it's such an eye-opening moment to me. It's I don't know if I would ever make apps the same way again, because I was right, well, I can just find out. It's only a day. If I've got an idea and I'm thinking do I spend, how long is my discovery process? And it's like I'm talking about like a particular like niche of software development here, but there's a curve here or a spectrum of some sort between like that and enterprise. But I've worked on projects where the discovery process is a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, it is a year, and we're going to build something. And like this would be in like big, or not name names, but let's say it's a big mining company.
Yeah.
And I remember having to pick up this project, and it had been like in discovery for about 2 years as part of this massive program that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And then they deployed the thing, like the whole app itself cost about $10 million. I remember like walking into the place it was supposed to be being used, because I had to come in and like rescue it at the end for like $20 and a piece of string or whatever the project was. And you come in, you go, all right, we've spent $5 million on this. Like, you go into the operations bit and you're like, all right, where's the app? And they're like, huh? And it's like almost like they move books off in front of this monitor, which is your app, and you're like, oh, all right, okay. And he said, what's this app? And they said, oh, that's the other app that somebody spent another $5 million on as like a competing part of the business. It's on a bigger screen. But it's also like everybody in the room is like looking over there to the left, and you're like, and like on the wall it's just like I don't know, it'd be like there's just like a big screen with an Excel sheet on it, and everybody just uses the Excel sheet because they can do exactly what they want on the Excel sheet.
That's what they used to using.
That's what they need. And he's like, God, we've spent like multiple years in discovery and building and doing stuff, and it's just not hit the nail on the head at all.
Classic example right now is the Bureau of Meteorology website. The government has spent like $100 million on this website, but had to revert like functionality in the website because it didn't work. So they've reverted like large pieces of the website back to its original form. It's insane. I mean, that original budget was like $4.5 million or something, and I thought that was obscene.
I mean, 93 or 94 million it was definitely, yes, but I mean I can see how things do cost that, and there are some good reasons at that scale that things do take time, right? Regardless of this technology. I actually even prompted like Grok the other night as to why it could cost that much. 94 million. It's spat out.
I mean, I know exactly how it happened.
Corruption.
It was change requests, it was committees, it was reviewed by committee, it was everybody having a say on stuff, it was lack of agreement across all the stakeholders, there was like no clear stakeholder stuff. Like I've been in the room where these things would happen, and the client is, if you're the consultant in that region, like you are like incentivized, your entire career rests on can I get more of these change requests through and like pump up the value of this project. I can then like feed all these like juniors underneath me. Like, all the incentives are against this being delivered for a good price, and then in the government, like it's hard, like you're not spending your own money, there's no bad feed, like even this guy, he'll get raked over the coals in the press, and then it's like nothing's going to happen to the person that just wastes $100 million
I mean, to be fair as well, like when we're describing the stuff we work on, like it's often stuff we're building for ourselves. So you can speedrun a lot of the thinking behind this because you just innately know what you want. You don't have to spend the time on discovery because it's like, well, I just know. And I'll tweak it as I go as well because I'm going to be the one using this thing.
Absolutely, that's the key difference, right? Is if you're generating something locally and you're the one making the decision, it's your idea and you want to validate it. Absolutely, you could do things so fast, but at that scale. I'm not spending $94 million for a website, but I would be interested.
I would have done it for 80.
But there's good reasons for it, right? There's again, like there's legal reasons, there's compliance reasons, there's risk reasons. You have to go through every requirement. Has to, there's legacy systems that the work has to interact with, and it has to be secure and scalable and all that. And so all those things you need to speak to people. It's a people-based sort of engagement. And the tooling helps speed up aspects of the development. It doesn't speed up that process, especially if you've got to go through and meet with different people to get things approved and budgets, that's still there. And a lot of that there is there for a good reason, especially with some of these tools, some of these apps, they are the business and you're running millions of dollars through them a day. You can't make mistakes.
I think that the thing that really got to me about that story was the fact that they'd spent all of this money and all this time, and I think the way you've categorized it is completely fair. But like the thing I took away from it was because they had to revert functionality. For instance, like a bunch of fishermen were like, we use this tool, like this is part of our daily existence, but now it doesn't work. That to me just like strikes me as like they've just ignored one of their like core demographics of this site, and they've spent $100 million on it, and it doesn't help anybody.
User validation.
That's it. So that's the part that I'm kind of like questioning. You would think that would be like a really important part of that process, and it's just been completely glazed over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the details of it, but I completely agree.
We're not trying to get you to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I come at it from a different perspective because I've built.
Exactly.
Right, with teams. So, yes, absolutely. Like, the number one thing is to validate it first. That's, the users are the only thing that really matter, right? So if it's right for them, so the fact that you're getting a key customer say, well, I want to use the old one, you're going to get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
They just maybe prefer it.
That's
like every time Facebook makes a change, you remember they released the timeline for the first time, it was, oh God, this is awful. Eventually, people start to realise, oh, actually it's better. So there could be an element of that. But yeah, you definitely have, at that scale, you should definitely be engaging with users at a really, really strong level and getting all their feedback and actually iterating on the UI, right? If they're out there, I don't know, on a specific type of tablet in the daylight, high contrast design, big buttons, so they don't, they might be wearing gloves or whatever, right? Like, think about it from that perspective. So that, it's kind of disappointing.
Do you think, like, with the proliferation of more of these tools, like, we just get more kind of standardized interface design? Like, one of the things I sometimes think about is how, like, architecture has kind of developed over the centuries. It's like, it was very, like, you had different styles in different places, and now it's kind of, like, modern architecture kind of looks the same everywhere you go.
You've seen, like, there has been a resurgence in people creating more, like, like frescoes and statues and various different things, and they'd almost like 3D print the statue for the building.
That's
so
true.
it's I don't know if that's necessarily
it's coming back.
Yeah,
but it's not part
I think that's
of
more
also
like
feels like a
style
cost
and,
constraint
like,
as
what
well.
people wanted and the cost constraint, and probably more the issue of like debt and how you have to play money these days.
Yeah,
than anything else.
I did see a startup that was using robotics to carve stone for those types of more ornate buildings to bring it back, because
So when I 3D print my final resting place.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, what was the direction of the question again?
No, I was wondering if you end up with more like standardized, homogenized design.
Well, we've seen that a lot in UI, right? So I guess the question, what is design and what is art, right? And some designers treat it like art, right? When I'd argue that it's not. Art is freedom of expression, just creating something to evoke emotion. And you need to understand those concepts in order to be a great designer, but design is problem solving. And so if you're solving a problem, you got to think about what's the best, and the appearance is part of that. It's not the only thing. There's obviously everything that goes under the hood of the experience. Is it fast, is it slow, what are the animations, all that kind of thing. But the visual is important. And over time, we have seen, like, websites is a good example. You got a banner, some text, a button, and then you scroll down, you got 3 boxes, right? Yeah. So there's a pretty standard design sort of language that's come into that, and people have been trained on that, and they expect that. So there's certain ways that you can do things to improve conversion rates and all those sorts of things. But then you have these really experimental pieces that might be some kind of experience that use WebGL and 3JS, and that's still web, that's still design, but it solves a different problem. In terms of UI sort of becoming homogenous, designers see things that are popular and they sort of, that looks nice, and then they adopt that. But then what happens is you get everything looking the same, and then you see something that comes out with a new style, right? So that's like the new trend, right, or whatever it is. Then that becomes something new that everyone adopts. And you just keep iterating on that. So I see, like, with UI design, a good example of that with AI tooling and how that feeds into these tools is, they use frameworks, right? So there was this running joke with all these vibe code tools that they're all using purple gradients in the text, right? Because they're trained on a common data set.
It is weird how often purple comes out. I don't feel like I see it that much on the internet. And it's like, how did it get in? I mean, we have purple highlights on our website.
I don't know.
Just because we quite liked the colour purple.
And like the name of things as well. Like they use, Gemini likes to use Lumina as one of those things. I don't know why, but look, I was saying to Andy earlier, like I have this really sloppy prompt that I like to use for testing some of these tools, and whenever like a new model comes out, I just want to see, like, what can it do sort of creatively. Just lovable, bold VO, all these kind of awkward, and they all kind of initially came up with these really sloppy purple gradient tags. Like, this is, you get a result out of it, but it's not great, and it might be alright for, it's like the advent of when Squarespace came out. Like, Squarespace comes out, it gives more power to the average person to create a website. All right, great. Is it amazing? Mostly not. Because they're not, enterprise tools, or they're not, haven't got the years of training of what makes great design. But it gets the job done. And some of these tools do that. You spit something out and people go, oh, that looks great. It gets the job done. But it's not unique. It's not amazing. Interestingly, like some of these tools, whenever a new version comes out, I'll test it and I'll see something new. I'm like, oh, it's a new module. Is it being like testing its sort of creativity? But then I'll create a new project in the tool and I'll run a different prompt and it kind of spits out the same module. Like, it's just updated its training data. So whatever, it's just scraped more stuff and, so there's no... For a while there, I felt there's no real true creativity, right? And again, designers are safe. But last week, Gemini 3 was released and I've been playing with that a lot. And I did think it would take a long time for sort of unique visual sort of appearances to be something that you can sort of prompt into these tools, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not great, but you can give it some sort of emotive style that you want, and it will actually go and create like a half decent UI design, which you can then obviously use to iterate on. So
here's so one of the ways that I've found to get much better creativity out of these tools is to not use them at all like how I'm being told to use them.
Yeah.
And to use them in a different way. And so I did it again, like software engineering, like just to bang on about it all the time. I did a workshop on this with people where I presented this idea of like set and setting for your AI. And it was to say like, look, we got AIs and we were delivered like a text box. And so we've been kind of like forced into that paradigm for a while. And that, it forces us to work with it in a particular way. And so what we want to do is we want to... you need to change like how you interact with it. So the first thing we'll think about is the set of the AI, which would be like, who is the AI? How do we set it up? What are we using? Like, what's it got in its model? How do we give it its system prompt and its description and things like that? And you're always amazed when you say like, if you've got a model and you're working with it and you say you're a designer, you'll get an output. If you say you're a senior designer. If you're a senior designer, it's like
all the colours.
Man meme. Like you're working for Louis Vuitton, you're this guy, and you're like, it just changes completely.
Even more purple.
And it's amazing like how much difference it makes. And I said, look, I think the big difference we're going to get is in the setting, which is the bit we're starting to explore, which is like, when you ask a question to an AI, what you kind of get back is the 5-year-old's response. Where you'd say like, oh, how much do you think this car's worth? And they go, $5 billion. And it's just completely detached from reality. It's just like a number that they've said because they don't have any experience in that world. And then like the better the training, like the better that child's first response is. But it's still just like an instant response to the thing. And then we introduced like thinking models. And like this to me was the first bit of playing around with the setting where they went, you know what? It's just like they sat ChatGPT down and they went, you know what, mate? You don't have to say the first thing that comes into your mind. And he was like, what? I thought that's what we did here. It's like, no. When someone asks you a question, don't even answer it. Just like think about a plan of how you might answer it. And he's like, oh, that's nice. And he put down the coffee and he sat down in his chair and he went like, oh, I can have a think. Oh, thank God, I've just been wired for 2 years now. And they sat him down and they're like, okay, now just have a think. And then like when you've had a think about it, like just do the first step and then write that down and then just have a think about it again and then do the next bit and then when you're ready, just tell us. And he was like, oh, okay. And then that became like deep research mode, which was like take as much time as you want. And then there was thinking mode, which is like, look, think about it, but think about it like for 5 seconds and then tell us sort of thing. And we got these different settings for what the AI could be in. And one of the ones I think is like criminally underexplored is the idea of like collaboration and conversation. And like I don't think humans are very good creatively when they just sit down and internalize everything and they go, be creative. Right, Pete, how are you going to be creative? Like, well, be more creative, Pete. Chickens with toasters that fire bazookas. It's like, all right, cool, we've got something. Let's go. Let's get back to Andy about that creative idea we had. We should do that.
That was actually quite creative.
Okay, we'll do that as a game. Okay, so maybe it does work.
It's creativity is not something you can turn on or off. It takes time, right? And great creativity, it's like a cube of marble stone. You got to chisel it away. You got to spend a lot of time thinking about an idea and iterating it, and it's not something that you can just right now. You're going to be creative and you can come up with an idea. It's a lot of pattern recognition as well, right? Like the people that are really creative, they go, that thing over there that I've worked with a while, and there's a thing over there, and what if you kind of that's interesting. Like that might work if you combine those together. Right? It takes a and I guess you can.
So we need like time and space and context of like different things. Like go and have a look at that, and have a think about it. Go and look at that and have a think about it. And then you would do something like, because I remember G is obsessed with like dialogue. It's like dialogue is just important for everything, and I was like, there might be something here, because like if I really wanted to work out a problem, one of the best ways to do it is to go for a walk. Usually like side by side with somebody, so you're not, it's non-competitive, shoulder to shoulder, you walk along and you discuss the problem with each other. And you would go like, because then you take on each other's ideas, you explore different things, you go down different avenues, you got an entirely different perspective and different context enters the chat, and then you create something together. And I thought this is something that like we don't have that for AI. So I built a tool called Pipeliner that let you set up these like little pipelines that effectively give you different settings for AIs. So you could say like, all right, well this time what I want you to do is, go for a walk with Jarrad Bot and talk about the design of this thing. And like just walk for like 40 API calls and go backwards and forwards on this and just discuss. And then just summarize to me like what you come out with. Or like another one I had was like, sit around as like three guys like you're in a podcast and discuss amongst the three of you, and I'm going to give you're going to be like the wild out there personality, and you can be like the crotchety like cynical guy, and you're the guy trying to find like some balance between the two of them, and like let's see what we come out with. And then or you can say like you're all just crazy, like go for it, let's see what you come out with. And it's what I found is like when you review these conversations, they were like eye-opening. I was like, this is, because I would give them like sets of source material, so it might be like like 5 1-hour podcasts or something like that me and Andy had done, or from No Solutions or something. I'd be like, I know what's in this source material, and you can see them working around it. But then they come up with legitimately. I need to go back to some of these. I remember marking some stuff down, going, shit, I'm stealing that. That's good.
some good ideas.
They come up with like
riffed on stuff we were talking about.
Ideas.
That was just took it to a different level sometimes as well.
I wonder how much of this like AI can't be creative. Saying we get is because we don't let them in a way. It's like
approach it
they're going to need time to breathe in the same way that humans do.
And it's a simulation of neurons, where it's kind of the same structure as a human brain. So why couldn't it be? I have thought this a long time. I have a loose bet with an agency founder that originally it was machines will be creative in our lifetime. Right. And every couple of years.
I think you've won that.
I sent him a link. It was when like Midjourney started image generation. Like, hey. And now, I'm starting to see real creativity where you prompt some idea. This is the problem we're trying to solve, and maybe come up with a few ideas and it gets better. That's the important thing to mention is this is as bad as it's ever going to be. And the more you come back to it, and the more you use it, I'm starting to see, wow, there's actually some pretty good ideas. You can actually use that. But that whole approach, though, from a design perspective, it's text, right? And I think you talk about this approach of having someone walking alongside you, and you're talking to them, and they're riffing with you, and you're kind of growing together. That will come to the design space. I think what I would like to see is like if you use Gemini's actually horrible at this. You prompt it with a few things. I'll take this, a bit of that, and generate an image from that. It'll spit something out, and you say, okay, maybe now make it look a little bit more like that or whatever. And oftentimes I just get the same image back, or it's not quite understood.
I've had this experience with Gemini.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. And as a designer, what would be really cool is you are giving it this infinite canvas where you're putting down images. Like, okay, this is the vibe I'm going for. This is the style that I want to try and capture. Maybe there's a photography style, and there's a UI design, and there's a whatever, right? And then it can start to help riff on image generation styling, where you can then say, okay, like that, but add more of this. It's like baking a cake, but instead of it being a text prompt, it's an image, or it might be a video, or something that kind of helps you creatively define your ideas in terms of design. Okay, now take that whole energy or whatever you know come up with and generate a UI based on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd never considered doing it with images because I could take the same approach as the pipeline and just have them.
Because you're more of a dev.
I'm not really a dev at all. Like I'm probably more of a general product guy. Than I am anything.
You're very capable on tools, so
I tend to be more functional.
Yeah.
Than UI, right? So even like in the products I would care about like, you know, the back end more so, or like, you know, I really care about Bitcoin, but I don't care how much, like what the wallet looks like. I care about like how it works and what the assumptions are and the trust and all this sort of stuff.
But see, I would argue that, you know, I like the way I want things to look good.
Yeah, like
right, and if it doesn't look
world,
good,
like
it shows to me.
Both.
Yeah, like it shows a lack of commitment. And you know, if I use a user interface that's sloppy, well, if you don't care enough about UI, well, under the hood, how much you care, right? So like quality is something that has to be all the way through, and design is a key part of that. So I get really passionate about user interfaces and animations and things like that.
That's why it's always wise to team up with other people. As I say, this is why I think it's weird that we make. I feel like we just treat AIs weirdly.
If
you know what I mean, like I think it's because we started with the chat model. Like I don't think we ever had to have that interface for the thing. It's just like we needed something that was like generic enough that you could launch and make a big bang with it. And it probably comes from like the Turing test definition, right? Is that like, all right, well, you're supposed to be able to chat to something and see if it's a human or not. So the assumption is that to test the AI, you would have a chat, and therefore we launch with a chat, and now everything is chat. And you're like, and so like there's like, so one of the, you know, going back to like, you know, what happens to UIs, there's like a big idea that like, is UI dead and is everything just a chat from now on? And it's like, no. In the same way that not everything is going to be a phone call and then you get told it in your ears, because you can't. That's not how people work.
That's right. Like, we're humans. We like doing things our own ways. And we like the freedom to be able to do things our own ways.
But we like to look at stuff.
Yeah, true.
Like we have eyes. We wake up in the morning. The first thing we do is go, let's look at everything. That's right. And I'm going to keep looking at everything until I go to bed.
Maybe it's a generational thing, but like I don't like voice interfaces. I don't talk to my phone, and I don't want to talk to my phone when I'm on a train or.
No, when I'm on it. Yeah, that's the problem. Is you're around people.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
If you're going to talk to your phone all the time, you need to be. More or less. I mean, I will like just walk around, chatting to wingmans, trying to do stuff.
Yeah, if in the right environment, absolutely, right. But if you're trying to search for something, you know, it's still typing until they get, you know, stick it in your brain or whatever.
This is actually like a way Pete and I work differently as well, because I am with you on this, like, but for a different reason. Maybe again, it's not a comfort thing. I actually find like the act of typing is like extraction. So I'll have like an idea in my head, and like if I just say it, I'll say it very quickly. But if I write it, I'll go through this process of filtering and thinking about what it is in my head and how I'm trying to communicate it to. In this instance, just might be someone else. But it's an AI, and so I find that is a really useful part of like it's almost like building this this loop where I'm thinking about whatever the idea is or what the problem is, and me going through this process of writing it down is actually a way of like. You know, building on the idea and refining it and working out if I'm thinking about it the right way. And so I'll use that as like a more longer drawn out process. Maybe not the most efficient by any means, but it's a useful.
I think so. It helps you tease your ideas out. If you can write it down clearly, then you can understand it, right? So I think you're right in that sense. Like if you can really articulate what it is you want out of it by typing it, then you've thought about it enough. Like if you voice prompt a functionality, you know, you look at the transcript. So it's kind of like, I want this to be a little bit like this.
But typing can be like that as well. Like if you just like speed type the first thing that comes out of your head, then it's essentially the same thing.
I find it hard not to just like type bang and hit return. Like it's like the amount of like
that's the thing,
just prompts that you send in before you're finished, because it's just so easy to hit return. And I really think this is just the mindset of the chat box is wrong. So if all I'm trying to do is get a lot of information into the chat box, then I will just speak it out, because I can speak so much quicker than I can type, and I can get a lot said, and then I'll go back and edit it and stuff because it makes a bunch of mistakes. Or sometimes I'll just say lol.
But this
is see what happens, right? But like if I'm going to write something out, then I want to be in a document, because the document is the right mindset for it. It gives me like space to breathe on it, design stuff. I think I don't work like that with most coding stuff these days, because by the time I'm trying to get it to do something, I know exactly what I want it to do.
Yeah.
And what I've usually done is beforehand, I have a whiteboard, so I use Excalidraw for all this stuff. I don't want any of like the complexity of Figma.
Yeah.
And I just have like a big, again, infinite canvas where I draw boxes and lines of stuff, and I have some red boxes and some green boxes. The green boxes are done, the red boxes are in trouble, the yellow boxes I'm working on, sort of thing. And then I'll draw shapes, I draw ideas, I plan stuff all on there. I don't like, and then I forget about that bit and go over here
messy,
for a bit.
right?
It's just like, it's like my own head sort of thing. If I'm not thinking about it, I don't.
And that makes sense to you, right? And again,
Yeah.
everyone's different. So interfaces, there's going to be a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, you're still going to have, you know, the web has been declared dead for forever.
Yeah.
And apps, you know, people are saying, oh, apps are dead now, right? Like I completely disagree. There's going to be a rich history, a rich future for them as well. But like the interesting thing from my point of view in this space is generative UI, where, you know, if you can get it to a point, so we've talked about it, like if it's just for you, if you're just creating something just for you to achieve something, you can kind of do it quickly, because the stakes are low, right? So if you want to build, like, the interface of a phone in the future, I think might be generative in the sense that it's not going to have your standard UI of all your app icons. You could just ask the OS things that you would need, and it would generate UI. Right, and you can make calls, and you can adjust. You can have your own customizable, you know, phone home screen, which is just all the things you need, calling functions. So sort of generating on the fly. I've seen some of this in, you know, GPT and different toolings where it'll actually build things for you in the chat. I don't think it's there yet, but that's like a little micro apps that you want to create. And Apple actually just announced, I think last week, this sort of micro experiences. They're reducing a revenue take on web-based mini apps within apps. So I think they're sort of looking at, I don't know, the WeChats of the world, and maybe trying to incentivize those sort of super apps or a new revenue stream or something. But for them to take a lower cut on something generally means they're trying to incentivize it. To broaden out the experiences you can create within your apps. So maybe, you know, they're heading in that direction. I don't know, but.
I mean, the most used apps on my phone currently are the ones that I've built myself from scratch. And I understand that I'm probably ahead of the curve here on this, because it's fun for me to just fix these things for myself. It's something I've always wanted to be able to do, and I never could until like 2 years ago. And like that for me was the moment I was like, fuck yeah, I can just fix all my own problems now. I don't have to go and hire somebody to do it. That's amazing. And
then it'll iterate and be good enough for, you know, Apple will build some sort of solution where, you know, the average person can do that.
Yeah.
Right now, the average person can't, right? There's still, you know, there's a degree where they think they can.
I mean, the barrier to entry is so much lower than it was. I think that's the bit that a lot of people understand, is that because now even the stuff that stopped you before, which was to like, you know, you had to go to Stack Overflow and say, what's a terminal? And everyone would go, fuck you. Like, what are you doing here? Get out. You couldn't do that 12 times a day. It was too much for your fragile ego. So it was so hard to learn. Whereas now you can just ask this ever patient robot. It goes, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, that's
what
right.
it is.
Infinite patience, right? And the average, you're right. The important thing, you play that out, right? The lower barrier to entry for anyone is that creativity in this space shines. You know, that you're going to have people that just have an idea that can make it now, right? There's going to be more different types of applications and more ideas being created, rather than these big teams where it's very expensive and it's, you know, quite risky to do. So you're going to see a lot of experimentation. It's like when the App Store first came out, and everyone was making like beer drinking apps and all these quirky things, right? I think we're going to see more of that, which is really exciting.
Well, and I think from a UI point of view, like, you know, surely the best UI is the UI that works for you.
Yeah.
So like, I don't necessarily see more personalization there as like a bad thing, or because to me a lot of like SaaS apps and business apps and various things are kind of needlessly watered down to the point that they never actually do what I want. This is why I get so excited about being able to do my own stuff. It's like, well, we've had for 10 years the model has been, no, you can do about 75% of the things you want. It's going to cost you a fortune. I want a minimum of like $20 a month, and fuck you. Like, no, you can't have that thing. If you want to do that, you're going to go and buy 10 other versions of this app, and they won't work either. And I'm not going to integrate with them. And like, that's been the model of software. And it's just like so disrespectful to like anybody. And this is why I still think, even in enterprise, right? We talk about enterprise all the time. It's almost like this glorious thing where everything works, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not like that. What happens is everybody just does everything in Excel, because in Excel I have control over the thing. And like, does it integrate? Does it bollocks? It does in the way that I can email you an Excel sheet and you can copy and paste.
It works.
So
right?
it's loosely federated. It's like loosely coupled Excel sheets are how the entire world runs. You don't think that, because you look at these big spangly buildings with people dressed in suits and looking sharp and drinking lots of coffee, and you go, oh, they must have figured it out. And it's like, nah.
Spreadsheets.
Nah. Like, half of them just move. Half of them align boxes on PowerPoint, and the other half build the Excel sheets. That's what's going on in that building.
But it's that because it works for them, right?
Exactly.
And,
but I think what you're going to find is that you professionalize the Excel sheet. I think this is the growth area of coding with AI inside enterprise. Like, it's not going to be, can I make the app that works for like 100,000 people and has to be fantastic. That is going to get better because of the same sort of tools. You move quicker through that process. But you're right that the problems there aren't technical problems. It's risk compliance and all the rest of it. Problems.
Someone will build the walled garden that works.
Yeah, but the cottage industry of like, how do you build better versions of the Excel things so that the person with the problem can solve their problem? Andy can solve his problems better than I can solve Andy's problems, and likewise I can solve mine better than anybody else can solve mine. And I can tell, because they never did. They've been not solving all of my problems for years. I've had to deal with my problems, which is not cool.
And now you can do it yourself. And I feel like the freedom of being expressive in this space, I think, is awesome. Right? You remember MySpace, where everyone would like code their own profiles, and they'd change the colours, and it's actually how I started to learn development. Right? I was just playing around with MySpace profiles. The ability now for anyone to do that and say like their own apps, right? So Apple and Android have kind of two different approaches, or Google, in terms of their interfaces, right? So Apple are going down
that movement you did. This is why we don't have video.
Tickle the ball. So they have Apple are leaning into this very, very. It's very them. It's way over the top. It's hyper detailed. It's let's make our interface feel like reality and glass, and refraction, and chromatic aberration, and all this sort of stuff, where no one can really copy it. Right? This is our way of doing it,
or understand what's going on.
Great for accessibility. I mean, in a way, I kind of applaud it. It's kind of them doing what they do, and it's nice to see something at that level of care. Right? They really, really dive deep on it. But then Google have gone the other way, where they said, no, we're going to go flat, but we're going to go more animated. So Material 3 Expressive is the latest thing that they're pushing, where it's really flat and simple, but it's very, very diverse and very animated. And what they're pushing there is that app developers can tie into that, and you can have your interface customized. So if you want everything pink, go for it. The apps that support it will all be pink. They'll choose that theme. So you take that one step further with this sort of technology, and people can, again, I think they can they'll be able to generate their own, low level apps where they have their own interface. But I want it to have Comic Sans, bright pink. Right?
We would talk about it's like the win amplification of software. Is that you have common components that stay the same, and the functionality is the same, and the app works the same. But there's almost no reason why you shouldn't be all developing your own skins. And if Andy wants a Stone Cold Steve Austin, that's fine.
Don't judge me.
It's like, it's nice for him. Good for him.
Yeah, that's it. It's respect to the user. And I think that's one of the ways I think it's going to go. But at the same time, you raise this sort of enterprise, they've got to maybe needlessly watered down. They don't need that, right? Like they have like a brand to represent, and like a good example is like the Bunnings app, right? You want the Bunnings app? It's got the logo, it's got the green, it's got the fonts, it's got the style of illustration, things like that. It's like it feels like Bunnings. They want people. It's an extension of their brand. You want people to feel like you're interacting with Bunnings. Whether
They shouldn't be able to find stuff Like,
hey, it's pretty good now. You know, they've introduced some pretty good features. You can, you know, down to the aisle.
There should randomly be a couple of dogs.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I should go to a site, like a page, and they've just got the lines out because someone's down there on one of those little scissor lifts, so I can't go and get what I want. And I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, come on. But what they need is their AI tool. They need to have like there's always that guy in Bunnings that you ask, hey, where do I find this screw? It's like, aisle 26, row, D, above next to that.
Then ideally you should tell you a story about the tree house he built with that screw.
I don't know how they do it. They must have some kind of crazy training program. But I guess the point there is that I think like things will be more expressive with this technology, and the creativity will be higher because you have anyone, you're not gatekeeping that anymore, and you have more people being able to contribute to what we can do. You don't have this sort of we have to do it this way.
Well, that's the beauty of the barrier coming down, right? Because if you, let's say you worked in, we're in Perth, right? A large mining company. Like we've all done this at some point in the past. Mm-hmm. And you worked in rail operations, and you happen to be like the best guy at like rail maintenance in a particular niche area. If you could have a problem, and that problem might be something that costs the company like $100 million a year, but it's just like expected. It's just part of the operations, and no one's going to fix it. If you want to fix that, and you know how to fix it, and it's like, if I just had this information over here, I could present it over here, and I could give it to this person, and they could do that, and I could get it back, that would solve the whole thing. Like, I know exactly how it works. Mm-hmm. The way that you would fix that is you'd have to go to an IT department that's never been to site before, and like convince them that this is a big enough problem for them to start like a $1 million discovery process to do the thing. And this is why it gets solved in Excel, because the guy's like, hey, Timmy, you're 21, you know how computers work, therefore, like, come over here. Yeah. Like, you need to learn Excel. We're going to solve this ourselves, right? I'm going to tell you what to write, and we'll build like a big table, and then so the business ends up working like that because it has to, because these people can't do it any other way. And I think if you can drop, like, you see like so many times where it'll be like, this doctor is like bailed out of being a doctor now, and he has this new startup where he solves this problem for doctors that's exactly like this. Like, giving the people that have the problem the ability to solve it directly is going to be massive. The apps that come out of it are going to be like so much more niche. It's like when you said like Figma was just like, the reason it worked is because it's like they came into Jarrad's head and went,
it felt
this
like
is how he wants to work. And you're like, guys, thanks.
Yes,
like, I'm going to use this forever.
And now you can do it yourself. You can build something yourself.
And you see it for like designers. They love it. Like, you can't get a design. It's like, can we make a presentation? Yeah, I made it in Figma. All right. Can we write a document? Yeah, I made it in Figma.
That's
all right,
me.
Guys, can we start with the
Figma
Figma
slides? It does PowerPoints now. Yeah, exactly right. And that's a good example of how you get this organism sort of organic bloat over time. This system and that system. Some guy wrote that this period of time, and nothing talks to each other, and then eventually they need someone to come in and join the dots. Right. I think you're right. It will get to the point where you empower people internally to build those things. But again, I think at a business at scale, you think about risk and legal, you have people that need to check things, and I think they still need to check things. There's going to be a human in the loop across these processes, but you're just speeding up all those bits, So from an engineering standpoint, right, like you might want to build something that meets the requirements, right? Yeah. But then you have to make sure that the requirements are met. So someone has to review it. You have to have testing, right? So you can automate some testing, but to test the right things and understand like what the risk is for the business. I still don't think you can beat human testing to understand the test cases. The execution's, it's still good to do human execution, but
my standard agents.md says you do not write tests. You commit everything, never push. I will write the test. I will run the test. Do not write tests.
It doesn't want you to do it.
No, I just don't let it. It's like there's no point in you writing tests because you'll just fake the test.
Yeah, that's right. You can write self-healing tests, whatever, but then how accurate are they? Right? You want to do it yourself. You want to verify yourself.
You need to be in the loop for that.
Yeah, 100%. And you're speeding up those elements in between. So I feel like even in that example you give, they will be building more software themselves, but the flow of work still needs to be defined and clear.
I mean, I think the thing is, they always did.
Yeah.
Like, even from the moment that like anybody had like a pad of paper and a pen, everybody created their own system for how they manage their work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one's to-do list looks the same, no one's to-do system looks the same. Like nobody's like, as soon as you gave everybody a computer and they create, like they did the same sort of thing. They just express how they want the work to work into like usually something like Excel, just because it's so flexible that people can do it. That's why it ended up there. I think they will always do it. The difference is like if you can express it into code. The interesting thing is then if you have like something over here and something over here and they don't talk together, you can then take those two things, put them into the AI and help bring them together. Or to make that interface, because it's so much easier for it to work in the code space than it is in the general process space. But
Excel's like a really interesting amalgam to this, because like everyone can do something in Excel, and so I think that's like the democratizing power of it. But very few people can get the most out of Excel. And like I mean, I've worked in banking finance, and I've just seen things in Excel that I couldn't even describe to you right now. And I thought I was like, you know, at one point in my career, I was like, yeah, I'm an Excel power user. I know how to use macros and
I know what VLOOKUP
and
is.
it's like, you know, like, but then you're like,
a long way with
have you ever seen like if you go back like 15 years, the old user manuals for Excel that came out with it? They're like literally, if you remember like what a phone book looked like, it was that thick. And I was like, there's no way I'm reading that. There's just no chance. So like in a similar way, I wonder like, and this is kind of, I'm gonna like ask a question about craft. Like I can build an app right now, you know, someone that's not technical, and I feel like the technical barriers that exist, I can like with enough time, I can cross those. In the same way that, you know, someone can get into Excel and do something that's valuable for them. But how important is craft in terms of that, like that last mile and building something that is premium, that really matters, that solves the problem, you know, as effectively as possible? And, like, do you worry about like the loss of craft at all? Like, because you were talking about like your experiences, you know, starting out, you know, 20 plus years ago with MySpace and like getting into programming, and like, you know, you're a product of all of those experiences that you can't shortcut.
Yeah, I mean, I personally no, because every time something new comes along, there's always this, oh God. And this is a bit different, but I still feel like we're going to spend, you know, there's still going to be 80% of work in the last 20%. And it depends what type of experiences need that 20%. So, you know, some internal tool that helps you get something done, probably not. You can make a strong case that if it needs to work effectively, that you do want designers to work on that, right? Because the experience, the results I'm getting from some of the UX of these tooling can be a lot better, right? It's good. You might get the job done, but you can improve on it. So it's good to bounce that off someone with experience. When you get to, you know, large scale, you know, multi-million user apps, you know, the craft is a differentiator. And you look at like Airbnb's rebrand that I did recently, where they have all the little animated icons and everything. Right now, people are trying to steal that style with Gemini, isometric 3D style, right? So, but someone had to define that style and use it in that way for then it become something that is generated, right? So craft will always be important at that scale because that's the thing that is an attractor for, that's different, you know, it's something that I really like and passion and care was put into it. I think the tooling will get better and better, but, you know, I don't think it's going to go away.
But do those, like, those things that, like, defined craft, like, do those go away? You know, like, the analogy I like to use is, like, you know, we're all in school, we wrote essays, right? And, like, you didn't necessarily have, like, Google to go and give you the answer. You'd have to go to the library, pull out, like, tens of books, read them to find, like, one sentence that was valuable. But what was actually in order to write the essay, but the essay wasn't necessarily the valuable part of learning. Like, it was reading all of the stuff that was ancillary to the thing you were trying to discover. You know, and that was useful. And I feel like now we've got a straight line to the answer. We don't need to do all the ancillary work. And I wonder sometimes what we lose.
I don't know if that's true in the same way that it's getting expressed there. So, because to me, I found that if anything, I value the craft more. But I wouldn't necessarily say that, like, it's hard. Maybe I'll stick with the essay example. But like reading the stuff is important, and going on. It's not necessarily important though that you have to go to a library to read the stuff. And so I think I'd say the fact that you've got Google allows you to just explore and find more things to read. It does, like, as with anything, like, there's a double-edged sword where I always hated that expression because a double-edged sword is useful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sword that is also a handle as a sword is bad. But anyway, that's an aside. But like, yes, you can be lazy, but you could also be lazy when you had a buck and you could just take the first buck and you could do that. And so it is important still to maintain some sort of craft. But like say with something like software, there's an element where you kind of want to like reduce it down to build me an app, pleb robot, and it goes away and it builds you an app and you've really done nothing. And I've tried to work like that, but I really can't do it for like my own soul, my mind. Because I actually like the customization and the process of creation. And so what I found was that I actually just reinserted myself more aggressively into the process and become more part of the craft, and then build the tooling and the things that I want to use around me, so that I can be like, right, we're gonna create something today, and I'm gonna work with the tools, but I like force myself into the craft in a way that like I couldn't have done previously, because I would have either lacked a particular skill or I had to insert other people into there, which then like took away that control from me. So now all of a sudden I have way more control and I'm way more intimately involved in the creation of like the applications that I build, because it's all built around me.
I think maybe like I hear you. I think maybe what you're describing there is a slightly less straight arrow than like the straight arrow that I'm describing. I'm actually talking about all the stuff that is completely ancillary to the thing that you're doing.
You learn along the way.
It's contextual, that it might have nothing to do with the thing you're trying to do, but it will be like reinforcing, or it will like shape your experience in some way. Not necessarily for this thing, but something in the future.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way that like starting to mess around with MySpace. You were on MySpace because your friends were on MySpace, not because you wanted to learn how to program. And if you wanted to learn how to program, you might not have been on MySpace. And so that's kind of what I'm suggesting, is there's like there is a lot of learning and experience that gets built in the stuff that is completely ancillary to the objective. The essay is like not the valuable part of learning. We all had to write essays. The essay teaches us the thing they want us to learn, but actually it's like all of the things that we learn along the way.
It's how to learn.
There's like a meta.
Well, it's the process of doing, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between doing and delegating, right? Like like that is like a good point.
It accelerates
because
doing.
A lot of these tools are built for delegation. Right? It's to say, it is you there, robots, go do, I will be over here. But, and we discussed this a few like podcasts ago, right? Which was like, you don't know what happened. The problem you've got, there's a real like time dilation issue here, where you say, go do this, and it goes away and does like 7 years worth of work. And you're like, okay, all right. Oh, can you do this? And it's like, no, I didn't go that direction. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, can you do? No,
didn't ask.
And it's like, okay. I don't want to delegate with you. Like, it doesn't work like how I expected it to work, which was I can just shit out requests that you go and do to my liking. It's like, no, when you do that, you do them to your liking, which is the way that like people have always done, right? That's the problem with like hiring, like trying to get somebody else to fix my problem. They never do. They fix at best they fix their interpretation of my problem, but more likely they fix their interpretation of their problem. They go, no, it's actually more like this, and I'm like, I literally can't spend enough time with you to convince you that this is how I perceive things. Whereas if I can just do it myself, I do. And I think you have the same problem with these tools, which is that if you delegate, you do lose that. And the answer is to not delegate. But you're right, like a lot of the tooling is built for delegation, because it's like the pill that makes you thin, right? Like it's like a great cell. Like, who doesn't want the output without the work? But the reality is that you'll get less out of this, and the things that you create will be shit. If you work with them and you do the work, then the things will be good and more sustainable over time.
It gives you more time, right? So back to your example of craft, have you seen that meme where it's a drawing of a horse? It's 10 seconds, 10 1 minute and 10 minutes or whatever, and the quality gets better over time. And that's craft. It's passion and effort. And before Photoshop, people were cutting things out on paper and sticking it together for the same kind of outcome, right? It just took them a lot longer. So the creation process gets more rapid, which is amazing as a designer because it gives you more time for more freedom to explore. And so with this, like a good example of this tooling is they just got acquired by Perplexity. Actually, it was a tool called Visual Electric. And if you ever used it, it's like an infinite canvas where you can just riff on ideas and throw images in and sort of it does just that. And I think as a designer who's working on craft, you get more time to do that because the traditional process costs X. And the cost might trend down in certain areas, right? But it's not going to be a 10x reduction in cost overnight. So you get the value, right? So if you're a designer and you're selling your service, the value is in you have more time now to explore your craft. You have more time to get it right. You could just fire it off, and it could be good enough. What do you think of that? Great, cool, job done.
And this is how you would do stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah. Just whatever.
Like,
here's some average logo design or whatever. I don't really care about it. I'm just gonna.
I think you said, I can't remember if it was at the start of the podcast or beforehand, but you said something like, it doesn't matter like what time of day it is.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about and using these things because it's just so fun and I'm so engaged with it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you really enjoy something, it's not a job. You're constantly playing with it. I was playing with it last night, but. My view is that it gives us more time for craft. It's a freeing tool. Right, it's not people. You have the initial existential dread of, oh God, everyone's going to lose their jobs. What are we going to do? And then you start using it. It's what's that Dunning-Kruger effect, or whatever it is. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're all going to lose our jobs, and then you really use it.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get better, but it's still not. It doesn't do exactly what I want to do.
I feel like you use it to like scaffold the bits that you're not good at, or and
it's empowering.
It's like a pad of paper or something, like just a computer. Like you build the thing around you. And like this, like I was wrong about this. Like it's not how I expected this to play out.
Yeah.
But then, like again, obviously I need to bring it up 14 times an episode so everybody drinks. But like software engineering was interesting because everybody was using AI, and it was one of those situations where you had 21 people in a room. Everybody was using ostensibly the same tools in a completely different way. And like software engineers are always a bit like this, that everybody has their own unique workflow.
Yeah. But
you could look at what someone else is doing. It's like, you are using this exactly opposite to the way I do, and you're doing it differently. We're a bit alike, but we have, again, I've built mine, you've built yours. Never will they talk, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you realise that, like, or you see somebody that uses it for writing, and like people that really like writing, like they don't take the output of the LLM. They might use it to like just spark ideas and questions and say like, oh, can you like check this for consistency or something? And they'll use it to like scaffold the bits that are less interesting to them, or to like prompt them in areas to go somewhere else, or to explore different types of things. But it doesn't seem to be the replacer.
No, I agree.
think it almost lets you focus more.
Yeah. It's going to allow us to be more creative and do more amazing work. And at the moment, I think a lot of people, or most businesses, would have this usage where it just speeds up all the little things, like even recording a call now, asking all the right questions. So, I don't know, let's say it's a sales call, for example. You know what you need. So you're going to ask all these questions, you're going to get the answers, and then you're going to get these tools to summarize that into requirements, which would take you normally like a couple of hours to do.
But the problem is, if you used to do that with pen and paper, you were out of the meeting in that moment, right? So if you've got that tool that scaffolds it for you, you can say, look, I can stay more intently in the meeting. I can look into there's nothing worse than being in a meeting and like somebody opens a laptop in front of you.
And you're typing whilst trying to talk, and so it makes you more. It builds human connection because you don't have to worry about it anymore. And initially, when you was experimenting with these sort of tools, it didn't quite get the transcription right. It would just spit out like some text. But now, not only is the transcription perfect, but it understands the context of what's been discussed, and it can transform it into ways that are really useful from a software point of view. Like, give me a high-level understanding of the functional requirements of this, and it will list out all the features and all the things that have been discussed. And you can say, okay, well, we can take that now, and we can start to cost against that, and we can put that in a proposal. What would take 2 weeks, you can now do in like a day and a half tops. So. It's. I think those are the efficiencies really that people are using it for, to enable them to do the real work.
Yeah.
Right, all that administration stuff. If you just come to work and you just click a box all day, I think forget it. But you at Adapter, right? We got engineers that have been there. They're very, very experienced guys. Like one of the guys has worked for ESA and he put satellites into space, right? Like they're very, very good at what they do, and this just gives them the ability to focus just on that. solve those complex problems, and not worry about all those other things. You know,
there's one thing I've found personally with that is that I've had jobs that drain energy from me, and then what I've found here is that there's elements of this, what I do is I don't want to give up. Yeah. It's like, this is the craft that I want, is this creation of like new products in the world. Like, I want to make this good. Yeah. And these are the things that I'm going to focus on. And then I don't mind spending time on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas I think, like, if you took me back, you know, like 5-10 years, and I would have been working in stuff, I didn't really, like, work was more of an energy drain at that point in time. It's like, well, I just want to own the thing, or I just want to delegate it all the way, or I just want the money without any of the effort. Like, I need to stop doing it. Whereas now it's more like, no, I want to just get up, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I can be valuable to people.
Yeah,
and like,
it's fulfilling that promise of what this utopian ideal is you get to do what you want to do, and get paid for that, and it will handle the things you don't want to do. And I genuinely think that's the way it's going and will go. But you know, there's a lot more. There's a lot more for it to do. Like, it doesn't solve all the problems.
No.
There's still heaps that it can't do.
Yeah.
And it's just a progression over time. So, yeah.
What part of the job do you reckon is just admin and, like, essentially just manual menial tasks for design, for creatives, just generally? Is this like something that's just
let's just say time sheeting. You know, if you're creative.
So you want an AI overload to look over your shoulder and keep track of
from this time to this time, you did this, you did that.
If there was ever a creative part of the job, it was the timesheet.
That's right. It might be better to have an AI in your design file than a product manager, right? Overlooking what you do. Like if you are focusing on experiential design, you just want to do that. And you actually, you know, a big part of that role would be meeting customers and getting feedback and focusing more on those sorts of insights. And you can do that with, you know, again, recording meetings and taking away all that post-meeting sort of data dumping and trawling through it all and writing up the insights and sharing it. You can now do that really quickly and just share a conference file and say, okay, this is what we learned, right? So it's all that menial work around really just focusing on the problem. Are people engaging with that solution? You know, does it need a change? Yes, no, and just iterating on that.
Like a big thing that hit me maybe about 6 months ago was it's all about loops, and you need very quick loops, and you need to be iterating on them. So it allows you, like, it doesn't really seem to matter like what it is that you're doing, but most stuff in most businesses you'll go through like some sort of feedback loop, and if you can move more quickly through that loop, you will do better in the long run because you get more feedback from the real world.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, this is why the 1 year discovery process is so detrimental to so many projects, is that you don't get any feedback really. You disappear for a year and then you come back and present something, and if you're wrong, it's too late. You spend a year on it. That's why you would always need like iterations in between. And I think if you can go through that full, so again, like with software, it's like if your iteration speed is like every day I've got a brand new app and I know if it's better than it was before, it's hard to go in the wrong direction for too long. Like that. Because you can always just throw it away and go, oh, it's only 5 days, so I'll just rebuild the whole thing.
Harder when you got bigger teams, you know.
But I think that's just about figuring out like how does it fit into the various different models. It doesn't fit in the same way. It's different for everybody. But like moving quickly through OODA loops is important.
And data analysis too. So using tools to track what users are doing in your applications. If you can export from that, feed into tools, generate insights and things. Like Postdoc have got a really cool tool called Max, which you ingest all your data into it for your product, and rather than having to look for certain dashboards of I want to create this funnel or whatever, you just talk to Max and it'll give you some insights or point you in the right direction. So that kind of speeds up the insight side of things a lot. I think you're right. It's just that iteration speed is the product velocity is probably the most important metric in product at the moment with this tooling, and all businesses, whether large, small, or even one-man bands or whatever, should all be trending in that direction. How do you release faster, but at a high quality? I think that's really important to mention, is because sometimes you say what's a triangle, pick two, good, cheap, fast, or whatever. It's not possible to do all three. I think to a degree we can do all three with this technology, but quality can't slip, right? Like people will just ship that out, right? there's a lot that goes into like major releases.
Like, there was a like if you had to get somewhere on a horse, there was like a speed quality like experience triangle. It's a different triangle if you use a car.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like you can, if you change the fundamental technology and what you're doing, it can be different. I feel like that's what happened here. It's like there was that quality triangle. It still exists over here. Yeah. It's just a different triangle. You're doing a different thing.
I think that's fair. And you can use the expertise of individuals a lot more, right? Yeah. So again, you think about a test team, right? You have people that have deep experience in understanding all the possible problems with something. Yeah. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff that an expert testing come up with. What about this scenario? Like, oh my god! And AI doesn't always necessarily do that, but that role, there's a lot more around just that. And if you can use this tooling to support all the grunt work and converting test cases to YAML and getting Maestro to run it, whatever it is, they can just focus on the thing that they do really, really well. Yeah. So you keep that quality in the pipeline, but you just, like I said before, you speed up all the bits in between it to increase product velocity. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, I think so. All right, I think that's a pretty good chat.
Solid. Yeah.
You say that's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff.
Thanks for joining us.
Sovereign engineering.